The Sony A7 IV is nearly perfect. Now that we know how this review is going to go, let's talk about what has become my favorite camera, the best camera I have ever used, ever. The A7 IV is exceptionally good at everything it is asked to do. It handles every type of photography I put in front of it well. Every subject, every scene, every lighting condition, every lens that rests in front of the sensor works. And it does so because this camera is amazing. This is an opinion shared by 100% of the A7 IV users I've met. Every single A7 IV user I've met has said they would only replace their A7 IV with an A7 V or A7 VI whenever those come out in the distant future. I do have some complaints. The first is that the microphone port and USB-C power ports are in, frankly, terrible locations. Using those items interferes with the flip-out screen in a lot of video shooting settings for video work, and a better placement of those on the A7 V, if this is feasible, would be on the grip side of the camera so that the screen flips out and over the memory card ports. No one is opening and accessing the memory card ports while filming video with the screen flipped out. But lots of people do use the mic and power ports during video recording with the screen out. Also, the screen itself could benefit from a better articulation mechanism. For that, Sony could draw some inspiration from, preferably, the Pentax K-1 or, alternatively, the Fuji GFX 50S2, both of which have substantially better screen articulation than the A7 IV, and both of those provide screen articulation that can be used in more challenging lighting conditions. That said, given the choice between those two issues being rectified, I'll take the first one being rectified as it's a bigger frustration. One other improvement the A7 V at some point in the future, or that Sony could make even as a software upgrade for the A7 IV, the image on the A7 IV screen auto flips when the screen rotates, but not soon enough, and I've often found myself using the screen in different settings where I have to compose and focus the scene upside down on the screen because the screen can't both reach the position needed to flip the image and allow me to see the screen. Bit frustrating. So that could be fixed. I rented the Sony A7 IV before I bought it, so I knew I would like it. What I didn't know was how transformative this camera would be to my perception of what a camera should be, to my overall approach to photography, and, most of all, to the work I realized I was capable of delivering. I expected the A7 IV to have the features I needed to grow my YouTube channel: 4K video, an ability to use myriad vintage lenses, and the one that I expected to be most important, no video recording time limit. What I didn't expect was that a simple, understated feature would become the most important to me: the silent shutter, and specifically its ability to be used at any time, not just in select modes as with some other digital cameras. When I started to use the silent shutter just a year ago as I wrote and released this video, I was still learning the A7 IV. This is not an easy camera to master, and the vast capability set built into it will daunt photographers not familiar with all the bells and whistles that modern digital cameras provide. I started using the silent shutter in Bilbao, Spain to capture candid street photos, and that type of work has come to define a lot of my last photographic year. Silent shutter opened the door to a new paradigm on photography. Before, I fetishized no-noise images with smooth and vibrant colors. With silent shutter, and to capture images in the canyon streets of Old Town Bilbao, I had to wholesale ditch my previous image aesthetic and embrace noise, high ISO, and learn to allow the camera to have some control. I set the A7 IV on auto ISO, a function I had literally never once used on any camera before. I mounted autofocus lenses on it and set the autofocus to face priority. I set a manual shutter speed and aperture, and let the ISO setting control the exposure. Instead of seeing the camera as a tool to take the images I set about specifically to take, I began to see it as a partner that I could use to capture some unexpected, exciting, and, I hope, moving photos that open the blinds on the windows of the lives other people lead. People act differently if they know they're being photographed. Expressions, smiles, even the fun or goofy poses people sometimes do. These are things that people use to keep their private selves, the selves they only share with those they know, from public view. But candid shots, those taken without knowledge, those are an end run around those barriers and show us how interesting other people can be. So what's the point of all that? The Sony A7 IV opened a new door to photography for me, and that door was an entry to a new appreciation for people in the world around us. Rare is the tool that can do that. Not just rare in its existence, but rare in our own willingness to go along for the ride that tool wants to take us on. It doesn't matter if you have an A7 IV or not. The lesson here for your photography is to let the tool of your creative voice take the reins and lead sometimes. The A7 IV had no map for where we would, and still will, go photographically, and so there's no way I can know the ultimate destination. What's incredibly fun about that is I know I have a companion for the trip that wants to be there and see where it leads to.